Peace up to the family, peace up to the family. Welcome back to the Artist Journal. I'm here in the heart of the coastal region of Diani. Working it out. If you guys are here for the first time, welcome to the platform. It's a platform where we talk about African affairs and issues and vibes, you know. From time to time we highlight our ancestors, we highlight our scholars, our soldiers, warriors, and those that fight to give us a fighting chance at this thing called freedom and liberation. Today we want to highlight one of the great elders, one of the great Babas in Professor Small. If you haven't yet, please, before we get into the build for today, please go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the platform. Today we are gonna watch some footage of Professor James Small. Professor James Small is a scholar, activist, dynamic speaker, and organizational consultant, CEO of Sanea Lodge Enterprise. That's a hotel that's in Ghana, if I'm not mistaken. He is also the vice president of the Organization of African American Unity, a graduate of the City College of New York. Professor Small also has taught for over 15 years in the Department of African Studies of the City College of New York and holds an honorary degree of Doctor of Divinity from Amin Ra Theological Seminary of Los Angeles, California. And also, family, Professor Small is the chief historical consultant of MGM's Godfather of Harlem TV movie series starring Forrest Whitaker. And he's been featured in many documentaries, family. And you can find the good professor all throughout social media platforms. And I just wanted to really read through a little bit of what the Honorable Professor Smalls is about. But there's an ongoing debate whether or not we are indigenous to the Americas or whether or not we are from the African continent. And this is titled, "We Are Africans, Period." So without further ado, I'm going to let the good professor do the bulk of the talking today, family. I just want to highlight why it is that we are actually here on African soil. Professor Smalls is one of my inspirations, so stay tuned, fam. Without further ado, Professor Small.
Everything else in nature had an ancestor too. This grass has an ancestor. You know, the grass dies, it rots, and new grass comes up. The tree, I was standing somewhere this morning, that's a big acorns in town. And so the tree dropped all these new acorns, and in every one of those little acorns is a new tree. So that acorn becomes the ancestor at the same time it becomes itself. When every one of you were born and you became this personality that you are, you also became the ancestors for the children you would bear, right? But before you could become the ancestors for those children you were bearing, you had to become the next stage of the people you call ancestors. You're nothing now but the present of yourself that was yesterday.
Yes. Yes.
You're the presence of yourself that was yesterday. And that's what our cultures and tradition teach us. Now, I'm supposed to be, they say, Baba Larisha, a priest of Oya. Well, what is Oya? We have books, and we draw has a pretty lady with locks, and she's running through the forest, and she becomes an antelope when she wants to. So I got this little horn on my altar at home. Sometimes I carry around a little horn. Everybody can see I'm an Oya man. But we put the image outside of the energy that's inside. Oya is something inside of me. Now they say Oya is the wind. That the wind is symbolic of what it is. And it's change. That thing in you, that energy in you, that informs you when you need to change to better yourself. That force, that idea, that set of tools that allow you the courage to do whatever that step is you got to do to change yourself, that's Oya. That's what our ancestors call Oya. She is the door. She's supposed to be the guardian of the cemetery. Who's in the cemetery? Your ancestors. So if you Oya, you're supposed to guard the wisdom of yesterday. That's all ancestors mean. Because those people who we put in the ground, they're not in the ground, they're in you. Right? But there's a body of wisdom that they left by their experience on the earth that we should guard and learn from and allow to build us into the person we have to be so the next generation can take it higher. But you got to be conscious that that is what you're doing. And that's why we had spiritual science or sacred science. We didn't call anything religions in Africa. You know, even though religion simply refers to history. You know, it means to go back and get something. It means almost the same thing as Sankofa, actually. All right? It means to go back and get something. What is the something? The wisdom of your ancestors. What is that wisdom supposed to do? It's supposed to allow you to survive better than they did. We didn't survive America because we gave up. And we didn't survive America because of the church or because of the lodge. But we used the lodge and the church to help us survive America. Okay. In this country, we had the church. I used to be the most anti-church. When I stood up, the Christians were getting ready to pack this shit and run, because as long as up there, it's a wrap. Ain't no Christianity going on down here today. And then one day I realized how well we took a tool that the enemy had twisted, turned, and poisoned, and we made it work for us to the degree it could work for us. Okay. Even though it had its birth in Africa, and we got to be clear about that. Christianity did not have its birth at the Nicene Conference. It had its birth in Africa even before it went to Ethiopia. And it really had its birth in Kemet. But not just the thing we call the Coptic Church, but the Coptic Church is simply a modernization of the Kemetic understanding of reality at that moment in time, cosmology and ecology. And so we gave it to the West. The Nicene Conference, I think one of the popes admitted that 8 out of the 10 of the initial people at that conference were Africans. So we were trying to civilize them so that they wouldn't be so crude, rude, and destructive on us, but it didn't work. They managed to outmaneuver us. But when they gave it back to us again in America, we worked magic with the black church. But it wasn't just the black church. Behind the black church was the Prince Hall Freemason. Something even Prince Hall ain't have the guts sometimes to say, and I have to be hard on my brothers and sisters. Because in the lives the masters know, I get privileges. Because every preacher in every one of those churches was a lodge brother. Every sister was an Eastern Star. But they couldn't come out in the open with what they knew about Kemet. You ever wonder why David Walker is mentioned in his appeal? He's talking about Kemet. How would David Walker know anything about Kemet? Anyone know what I mean by David Walker's appeal? Hold up your hands. There was a brother in the 1800s who wrote an appeal. He wrote a document, really, that was a call to arms against slavery. And he gave a huge critique of the American society. But in that critique, he talked about Kemet. And I remember when I first saw it, I wondered, how the hell does he know? He's enslaved, and this is 1800. How does he? Because he came out of the lodge. Because the lodge ain't what you think it is. Right? Even the church isn't what you think it is. Those were black things that white people corrupted and then tried to give it back to us. But we didn't forget what they were when they were black things, and we tried to make them to do black.
The good professor said that presently you are, currently you are that which you was yesterday. He's talking about in times of antiquity, how there wasn't a time that you, the African, didn't exist. That the energy that's housed in these physical bodies has no time limit, are not bound by time. And you see, family, that's why we have to yield unto those that came before us. I remember it was a time in my life where I was wrestling out there in the world and I didn't have men to confide in. I didn't have men to teach me how to be. So I had to resort, like many other young men that came up in the inner cities, to the streets. I had to watch TV. I had to watch the so-called OGs of the neighborhood to try to mimic what it is that they stood for, and had to replicate those things. And I always yearned to be around strong men to teach me certain things. And after going through a very troublous time in my life, I was gifted and blessed with a few men that kind of showed me the ropes. And so I started to chart my life and mark my steps with discipline at a young age, family. Because I had been through so much, I just wanted to do the right thing. So I started to apply certain teachings that I would get, and I would take heed. A lot of people that was my peer, they laughed, they made jokes, and they just didn't get what I understood at the time. But see, those peers, they didn't have the kind of pressure that I was up against at that time. They didn't experience that. So I couldn't blame them for cracking jokes and making fun. They just didn't understand I was in a whole nother kind of world. You understand? I was kind of more mature than them at the time. I was further along down the road than them at the time, because I had seasoned men in my ear teaching me certain things, and it afforded me to travel, to further my education when it comes to African studies and African affairs. I always tell the family about my first trip when I went to Ghana, and it's just ironic how and funny how Professor Smalls, Ghana in particular, is his stomping grounds. He has business there. He has numerous associates in Ghana. And that is the first African country that I went to. You understand? So my big point today, family, is the necessity and how essential it is for our growth as a community, as black people in the Americas, to have professors such as Professor Small that understand the big picture, that don't get caught up in the indigenous conversation, that understand we are in fact Africans, and that Africa is our legacy and is our birthright. You understand? So again, I'm not gonna hold the family. My responsibility, family, how I look at this YouTube platform is to simply connect the dots for our people, network, a platform where we can network, we can come together as a people, and I can share my experiences with my people. So this is a dialogue and a conversation. This is a village, a digital village for just that, our people. And everyone is welcome as long as you meet the circle with respect, integrity, and love. That's how we move in family. Respect, integrity, and love. We don't need buffoonery and clownery here at this platform. We're not here for that. So I pray that you guys enjoyed today's segment. Dr. Professor Smalls. Professor Smalls is one of my distant mentors. So again, family, you can find him on Instagram, YouTube. He frequents a platform that I always watch called Sarnetta, or the House of Consciousness. Sarnetta, the House of Consciousness. I always want to give Sarnetta his just due, because they consider him to be the father or the grandfather of consciousness within the black community. And truth be told, he has a lot of heavyweights on the platform that come through to bless the platform, and I learn a lot just in that platform. So again, family, I want to say I appreciate you guys for tuning in, for spending a few minutes out of your day here at the Artist Journal. Admonish you guys and ask you guys for your support in liking, subscribing, and even sharing the content with like-minded people. And again, we have the sea moss in, family, purple sea moss right here in Kenya. Ship it straight to your doorstep. So for any sea moss inquiries, please hit up myself. All the contact is in the description. And again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm going to tune out right here just to tune back in. Peace out.